Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Dr. Crystal Redmond, and I'm joined by our two amazing co-panelists, Dr. India Rose, as well as Dr. Kiana Ellen, Dr. Q. We're just going to give you all a few minutes to get adjusted, to get settled, get you something to drink, or eat, right? Something to drink, eat, chew on, a blanket, what have you. But today's episode... Today's episode is on our radical rest and leisure as a point of our liberation and our freedom, as a point of our health, our public health, and just everything about us. I guess we'll give everyone probably like 2 minutes or so or less to get joining. And hi, Diamond. We already have some people joining us now. I also see that our comment section is live. So we want this conversation to engage as many people as possible. We want this to be an open conversation. So sit tight. We'll start in a few minutes. This is my part. I don't know if y'all seen my Instagram before we started. I said I'm gonna flip this bang about 8 times during this.
I can see it.
So flip it.
I'm there.
All right, I see.
That's funny.
Come on in. This episode is just like so exciting to us. Like it's something that I don't see discussed enough in Black communities. So we're just excited.
Very excited.
All right, I think we're good. We have some people that have joined us, so we'll go ahead and jump into our conversation today. First, I just want to say thank you for joining us. If you're able to join us live in the comment section where you can participate in the conversation. If not, and you just want to be present and just kind of like hear folks speak in community, that's perfectly fine too as well. And if you're not here live and you're viewing our episode afterwards and you have some commentary or anything like that, want to connect with us, please visit at OurPanel TV on Instagram, or you could just like subscribe to us. It would be really amazing because then you can follow all of our work and all of our other episodes too as well. But thank you for joining us. Again, my name is Dr. Redmond. I'm the host of OurPanel, and I'm joined by our two amazing co-hosts. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Go ahead, Dr. India.
Hey everyone, I'm Dr. India Rose.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kiana Ellen. Good evening, everyone.
Hey, we have some hellos and hellos. Hi, everyone.
Hey, Candace.
Hey, Candace. So, as we were saying, tonight's episode is a very special episode to us. As providers, practitioners, as doctors, we speak a lot about like our holistic care, but also folks in community center our care on our liberation, on our freedom, on our justice, etc. And we really start talking about like systems of oppression, how we dismantle that, our trauma, our history, and also our joy and our happiness, our arts, our culture, like all of these beautiful things. But very often those conversations, we don't ever really hear enough about rest. About leisure, about the radicalness behind that and how powerful it is. Because as we said on our past episodes, we want liberation, right? And we'll get there. But we want to be able to be here to see it. We want to be able to be rested. We want to be able to be held and whole and enjoy it when we get there. And we can't do that without centering our rest, our leisure, our relaxation. So that's what this conversation is about today. Wonderful. And I see some hays and some.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Yes, thank you for joining. And I'll say this again. If you have any comments in the comment section, please just drop them in there. We'll keep an eye out for it as we go along in the conversation today. But we really want this to be a communal conversation about our rest and our leisure, what have you. But as we jump into this conversation, I really want to center the NAP ministry. And if you don't follow them on Instagram, please follow them. They are just an amazing structure that uplifts everything we're going to be talking about today, as well as like just other elements of our liberation. And when I say our, everyone who has seen an OurPanel episode before knows that like we center our conversations on predominantly like Black, Indigenous people of color, as well as like brown folks. And that's all of our folks. So that's like queer, trans, straight, cis, non-cis, people that exist outside of the binary, like everybody, all of us. Because as we said before, in order to achieve liberation for, you can't just achieve liberation for some of us, we need to achieve it for all of us, right? So our conversations are touching upon everyone's lives. And I see some more, hey ladies and people.
Hi, welcome in.
Hey, awesome. So let's just jump right into it. So I'm wondering, why is this conversation about rest, relaxation, in a radical way so taboo? You know, we've been conditioned to kind of be in this like, you know, overproductive society, especially for Black folks. You know, it's normalized to have a few jobs, to also be in school, to have a side hustle, all these different things going on, but we're not really normalized to take breaks, to center ourself and our self-care in the work that we do in all this labor. And I'm not just speaking about like today or, you know, today's society or like past generations. We're talking about historically, right? And how intertwined I guess the oppression of rest in a way is so linked to, you know, slavery. It's so linked to just our history, our Black history here in America, how it's so intertwined with capitalism and really just like this idea of like, or systems of oppression and the fight. You know, we have to actually fight for our liberation and our rest in that. And we shouldn't have to fight for any of it, right? Rest should be assured. It should be something that is a constant. It should be something that we're able to enjoy and engage as part of the process to getting to our liberation. But it is frowned upon. It is like taboo, especially for Black women and femmes. We're not allowed. We don't have permission to rest, right? So that's why we wanted this conversation, because we wanted to assure that we're giving ourselves permission. We're taking like our rest and our leisure in our hands, because it is a direct avenue to our liberation. So that's what the conversation here is today. So please join in and let us know, like, what are your thoughts around radical rest? You know, are you intentional about adding rest into your life, and how do you do it?
Can you give some examples of rest? Because, you know, when you first said radical rest, I know you are so in tune with things. I was like, what is radical rest? So can you give some examples of what is radical rest? Because some people do not. I know my mom, she goes and goes, and some people feel like resting is like not doing anything at all, like you're not doing anything. So can you give some examples of radical rest? And this is a serious question because some people do not understand what it is.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be honest, as a Black person, I'm still trying to figure it out and unlearn some of these systems of oppression and dismantle, you know, all of these ideas and theories around, you know, anti-rest, you know? Right. And so what I've, you know, been in conversation with in community and just have learned is that, like what you said, some people think it's being able to sleep all day, and it is that too. Like,
yeah,
definitely.
Ooh, baby, I wish.
Right. It is okay to sleep all day if you want to.
It is.
Sometimes our bodies need it. It is okay to just shut out, not log into social media, be by yourself, not, you know, if you want to read a book, you can. If you want to, you know, drink some tea or, you know, light incense or meditate, whatever works for you, or you could just do anything. It is okay to take a nap, to, you know, get a blanket, cuddle up somewhere and sleep. You know, our lives are heavy, you know, and regardless how, if you're employed or not employed or how many jobs or whatever, if you have children, a caretaker, whatever, our lives just as the people we are and the most we are navigating, and our history is heavy. So for those that are like, well, what's radical rest? It is, the reason why we say radical rest is because the idea of rest is not radical. The idea of rest is like so anti, you know, it's like, wait, rest? You know, we'll get into this later, that Black people would get significantly less sleep than white folks, right? And this is actually linked to data and research, and that as being a component to not even just being tired, but also affecting like our physical health, our emotional, our mental health, like the ways that we engage in society, etc. And because it's so taboo, we got to just get up and do things. You know, we were talking the other day, and I'm like, you know, sometimes even on a day off, I check my calendar. I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to be doing something. I thought, you know, and that's not normal. That shit is not normal. I'm like, oh, it's goofy.
And I think, Dr. Q, radical rest is really being intentional about your time and what you do with your time. And so, like Dr. Redmond said, whether it's reading a book, taking a nap, it's being intentional about that me time, because that's really, really crucial. And I feel like right now, and especially with the pandemic, so many people are doing so many different things. We have the kids at home with virtual learning, which I know for all the parents out there, y'all have your hands full. So y'all are the real MVPs right now with virtual learning. Then you yourself may also be working remotely. So trying to balance working remotely, helping your child while they do virtual learning, there's no time for you. And so radical rest to me is being very intentional about your time and about self-care to keep your cup full.
And also, I would like to add, radical rest for one person can be totally different for radical rest for another person.
Right.
Me, I personally, I would like for somebody to watch my kids for a couple of days so I can reset. I could literally get up and go to work because I own my own business. That doesn't bother me, but the responsibilities after work or before work, or so I could go and work out or go out to dinner with my spouse or sleep when, you know, so my rest looks completely different from your rest or your rest, and that's okay. You cannot compare your rest to anyone else because everyone has a different way that they need to rest. And whether it's, like they said, turning off social media, whether if it's stretching, that I'm really big on that, stretching, getting up, moving from your workstation, shutting off your phones, going for a walk, going for a run, going to the beach, going somewhere, doing a staycation somewhere. Everyone has a different rest, and it's okay to have something different from someone else.
Exactly. And on top of that, we don't have to explain why we need rest. Okay.
Right, that's true.
I'm tired. Like, you know, you didn't even work today. Why? I work every day.
Mentally, yeah.
Exactly. Like, you know, not even just about, you know, actual employment. I'm talking about labor, you know, like our lives are just, has a lot of labor attached to it. You know, some is labor, some is unpaid labor. And it's exhausting, as you said, and compile that on top of, like, if you have household responsibilities, if you're taking care of other people, little ones, adults, especially folks who have disabilities, like, it's a lot, you know, onto the different expectations from, like, work, school, whatever, you know, those other life expectations. It's a lot. So, you know, I think that we should really get away from this idea of, like, questioning why people are tired, questioning why people need breaks or what have you. Something that, you know, and this is a tidbit, something that I've done in my, like, day work, my day job, is at times when, you know, capacity, like resources permit, I try to allow that, like, all of us can just stay home for a week. Like, I mean, we're at home, but I mean, like, just literally a radical week, you know, or a rest day where it's like, hey, it's been really heavy. Let's just check in. It seems like there's been a lot going on, and I know I'm exhausted. How are y'all feeling? And, you know, maybe we should take some time away where we're not constantly having to work, you know, so let's just take a few days. There's a long weekend. Let's extend that and just let it be a long week. So, you know, those are some things we can do, like, you know, if you work for yourself, or even if you're in a leadership position at an organization, or even if you're not, like, speaking up and saying, like, you know, I'm tired, and I think we should discuss policies around how we integrate rest into our work. That's powerful too, as well.
And I think right now, Dr. Redmond, radical rest is so needed. I mean, our country has so much going on, from the pandemic, for our fight from social justice. And then now, and like I said, you know, the election coming up, virtual learning, it's so much going on in the country that this is the time for that radical rest. This is that time for a reset and a pause. And I really encourage people to take that time that they need to reset and to rest.
Absolutely. And then on top of that, you know, we spoke about this just briefly at the top, but the role that white supremacy plays in our arrest, or being anti-arrest or whatnot, like that's so plugged into our history. And it's almost, as I said, as if we're not deserving of rest. If you think about slavery, if you think about years post-slavery or what have you, well, ask me, I don't think we're post-slavery. I think it just manifested in other ways, like the prison system and all those other kind of things. We'll talk about abolitionists, being an abolitionist later at another episode. But with that being said, the idea of us being able to rest is not even just like taboo as far as like societal norms, but it's so linked to our history of white supremacy, as well as like capitalism, which is rooted in white supremacy anyways, that it's uncomfortable. Like we feel, like I said, we have to know why we need to rest. We feel guilty when we have to rest. Like there's so many mixed emotions that come from this idea of just being able to take care of ourselves. Like everyone else is able to take care of themselves. Why is it so unforgiving that we need time to take care of us? So we have quite a few comments in the comment section, so we'll go to those. I want to take the first comment and just go from there.
I view it as unapologetic. Sorry, I cannot read. Girl, I'm sorry, I'm country. Unapologetically prioritizing myself over the constant responsibilities, obligations, positions, etc. So it's priority. Putting your priority, yourself as a priority. Absolutely.
I love that.
Mm-hmm. That's a beautiful definition.
And speaking my own love language to myself first, so that I can remain grounded and be that person for so many people that rely on me in that capacity and not feeling guilty.
So that's a really important point. Feeling guilty. I don't understand why we feel guilty when we put ourselves first. So I'm a believer that you can't fill anyone else's cup up until you fill up your own. And so we really have to get out of that mindset that we're guilty when we prioritize ourselves, because we have to be okay before anybody else is. And so I think that society has really programmed us to feel bad when we prioritize ourselves, when we should not feel that way at all.
Don't feel bad.
Yeah. And we have, this is so true with Nicole. That was from Stephanie. This is from Nicole. We should be selfish about our rest. It shouldn't even be a discussion. You're so right. This is, none of these conversations should be conversations in our lives, right? Like, why do we have to have a conversation about the importance of radical rest? That means we have to have this conversation because there are systems preventing us from accessing the things that we need, right? So we have to talk about it to do the work to dismantle these systems, these concepts, these ideas, these norms or what have you. But if it was a norm, we wouldn't be talking about it, right? Like, that's so true. Like this should not be a discussion. Like this discussion is needed, absolutely. But the fact that we even have to have this discussion,
right?
Which reminds me of a quote that a colleague of mine made, because I'm sure y'all heard about the violence on 3 trans women in LA by cis men. It was like a crowd of cis men, about 5, I believe, or so, that attacked them, robbed them, physically attacked them, etc., just for being trans, like just because of who they are, their identities. That's why they were attacked while waiting for their Uber, right? And my colleague had made a post, and I felt just everything of it is like, you can't achieve Black liberation without queer and trans liberation, and Black trans lives and Black lives period matter, but specifically like Black trans and queer lives, etc. And it's like, and then they said, I'm tired of saying this. Like, why are we saying, like, why do we have to be a conversation? And it's a conversation because it keeps happening, right? Because there's so much, there's so much trauma associated with that, and there just has to be a conversation, and it's just draining and tiring. I just think about it, on all levels of our oppression, that we have to have these conversations because it's not afforded to us in our normal lives, in general. Like, when we think about oppression, you think about all levels of oppression. Like there's just so much, and we have to piece by piece begin to dissect what that means and what our liberation looks like as we move forward. Let's see. Oh, we have some more comments. So we have, so we have Andre, and they say, how do we get out of the trap of comparing our rest to our spouse, significant other, others' rest. And then they say, sometimes I feel like we have to prove our rest to our loved ones. Thoughts? Yes.
That's a good question, Andre.
Yeah, that is a good question, Andre. Well, I'm going to answer this. You have to learn your significant other or your spouse's what's their piece. So I feel like my significant other's piece is sometimes his alone time, because I'm an extrovert and he's an introvert. I know sometimes I need to like space out a time of the week or a time of the day that he needs to have like his alone time. And also he likes doing things that I may not like to do. So I'll like try to join in on him to do certain things. So you really need to get to know your spouse, your friend, your coworker, your employees or whatever, because it may help them through these times or through, through life, etc. So, and vice versa, they should get to know you and meet you halfway. So I hope I answered that question. I don't feel like you have to prove your rest to anyone. Just voice it, because some people honestly don't know what you enjoy. Some people may just say, oh, I thought you just liked this, or I thought you didn't like this. But a lot of people don't know even if they're close to you, they don't know if you don't verbally say it. You can't assume someone knows certain things, because some people can't assume things. So that's my feedback.
Just to piggyback off of what Dr. you just shared, I think the other thing is, like we said before, like rest looks different for everyone. And so they say, India, you work from home, you can't be tired.
Yeah.
Why not?
You definitely can be tired working from home.
Just because I don't have to physically go into an office doesn't mean that I'm not mentally drained, that I'm not mentally.
I don't have responsibilities.
So going back to rest looks different. Being tired and exhausted also looks different. And you don't have to work a laborious position where you're standing on your feet all day in a factory just to be tired. Like we have different kinds of careers. We're using our brains all day. Dr. Q, you are using your hands, your body all day here. And that can make us tired. And so just like we said, rest looks different for everyone. Our levels of tiredness and exhaustion also look different. And so I think just sharing that with your significant other is going to be really important, so that they know just because you didn't go into a warehouse or factory and stand on your feet all day, you still tired and you still deserve that rest that you need.
Listen, let me tell you, that hits
Hallelujah.
That hits home, because my work is more mentally bearing, just with all of it. And my partner's work is more physical, like on his feet and having to do a lot of extra moving and everything like that. So we constantly have this conversation. Like, I'm tired. And he's like, why are you tired? Were you standing up all day and my back hurts? And I'm like, my mind hurts. Wait a minute, just let me process. So that was a great question, because I think that outside of the like taboo or the like not being a norm, rest not being a norm outside of the home, it's also inside of the home too as well. That we have to normalize it, that we have to give ourselves and each other permission to engage in some rest.
Absolutely. And I think another thing is, don't equate tiredness and exhaustion with laziness. I see that time and time again. And I think that that's so unfair when someone is screaming out for radical rest and we label them lazy. They're not lazy. They just need that time to reset and pause, and they should give themselves permission to do just that. But I think that happens quite often, where people will literally say, oh, that person's lazy because they're tired. But it's like, no, they're tired because they've been working all day, taking care of their family. And so they have a reason and a right to be tired, and we should give them that.
Yeah. And also, like, to piggyback on that too as well, we also have this thought of like, when someone, especially like a Black woman or femme, is holding a lot, like trying to hold all of the things, juggle all of these things at once, we kind of normalize this idea that, oh, you got it. Like, oh, like you can handle it. You can, oh, I think we lost Dr. Rose, but
maybe it's storming.
Yeah, she'll be back. It's storming here in Georgia metro area. So it's this idea of like, especially for Black women and femmes, yes, you can handle all these things. And, so when you say, I can't handle these, well, not that you can't handle these things, but I need a break from handling all these things. It's either the guilt associated with like, oh, you can't do it, or this concept that's like directly linked again back to our history in this country, that the Black woman in femme had to hold everything. We had held so much and took care of like white folks' families, so we were doing so much, and it's like manifested into our current day lives. So this idea, and Dr. Rose, I know we lost you just for a quick second, but I was speaking a little bit about the idea that when we are balancing and juggling all these different things, we sometimes hear people say like, oh, you got this, like, oh, you can handle it all, like, it's okay, I know you're tired, but you got this, and that's not a compliment. Like that's I don't want to have to help all the things all the time. I want to be able to, to let go of some of the things, and it be okay. And it starts with us. Like we have to set that boundary. We have to be able, as we said before, to express those things in the workspace, in our family space, in our, living environment, like all these different ways that, and that's what we're talking about being radical, being intentional behind the space we're creating for our rest.
This ties into that episode we did on mental health. Because I'm thinking about a lot of in our the people of color community, how a lot of people don't feel like they can open up about certain things because they're labeled emotional, or some of the males feel like they feel like they're feminine or feel less of because they're opening up about certain things. So I feel like this ties in a little bit to our mental health conversation, because I was raised in a family like, oh, you'll be okay, you're good, or you're being too emotional, and I have to open it. Even as an adult child, I'll tell my parents, I'll say, I know you think I'm being emotional, I'm just opening up to you all, so I don't want the judgment that I'm coming complaining, but I'm just opening up so I won't have a breakdown, so they're like, okay, I get it. But it's just like sometimes you literally have to explain yourself for someone to get it, because some people just don't get it. And it doesn't come easy to some people who don't have a public health, mental health background, and they're just trying to find their way through life, and they're trying to raise children, even adult children. I'm like, dang, maybe I just, I wish my parents would have had this conversation. I wish I would have had this conversation with them earlier to let them know I'm not being emotional. I'm just opening up so I won't resort to other bad things. Thank God I turned out a good kid, but that could easily make a child or whoever turn to different things if they can't open up, because you're like, oh no, you'll be okay, you're great, so that's how I feel. This is really big, because some people feel like they don't want to burden other people. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I didn't say this to you 2 weeks ago because I know you're doing all this. I'm like, that would never bother me. But some people feel like they burden other people. I have a lot of friends, a lot of loved ones don't open up because they don't want to burden anyone. And that makes me feel so sad. I'm a really empathetic person. So I'm like, you would never burden me. I'd rather you open up and then something else happen to you, or you do something else. So it's really about communication. If we just start talking and having these kind of conversations, listening to podcasts, books, and just finding people that will actually listen, I think it will help everyone during these times.
There's something you said, and I don't think we mentioned it, that this idea and strategy behind radical rest is not just for adults.
Right.
When we think about radical rest, we also got to think about our little ones, younger people in community, that rest is not something you earn. You don't like do these things in order to achieve rest. Like rest is something that should be guaranteed. It's part of the process as we get to liberation. And we have to instill that in our young folks. Like, either the little ones we're raising, the other ones we're raising in community. Like we have to instill that in the community of young people, especially young Black people, that it is okay to rest. As we said here, it's not lazy, I know growing up, it was like Saturday, you getting up the same time you got up during the school week, you doing something. It's like, I'm tired. Like,
girl, you gotta get up.
Acceptable. I know we have a few more comments, but I do want to say this from the NAP ministry. If y'all are just coming into the conversation at the beginning of our talk, I mentioned the NAP ministry. And if you're not following them, please follow them on Instagram. They have some really powerful thoughts around rest and leisure as part of liberation, and our strategy to get there. So something they noted that I really wanted to bring into this conversation tonight was they say that the future calls on us to slow down and learn to rest now. Not rest whenever we get there, as we said before, not schedule a time for rest. It says rest now. So we're well practiced at nourishing ourselves. So we have to actually practice the nourishment of ourselves. This is not something, as we said, that we've been conditioned to center is ourselves. We have not, we have not been conditioned to center ourselves or our self-care or the nourishing of self. And we're not just talking about physical. I mean, rest can look different ways. It could be getting pampered and, and such, but it can be meditation. It can just be sleep. It can be so many different things to so many different people. And then we have to give our time to do such. So I just wanted to put that in centering the fact that our future calls for us to slow down now. And that is a piece from the NAP ministry. So we'll get to some more of our comments. Dr. Rose, do you want to take on Stephanie's and Candace's comment?
Sure. So Stephanie said, we feel guilty because we've been taught and programmed through generations to always be there for people. That's so true. Goodness. Unfortunately, we as Black and Brown people haven't truly had the privilege until now to really know what boundaries are. And you're right. We are always there for everyone. And sometimes people are there for us too. But at the end of the day, we have to be there for ourselves and other people. And that's where that burden and that need to kind of juggle you versus their priorities comes into play. And you touched on something really important about boundaries. I think it's so important to set boundaries in your home, on the job, with your friends, with your significant other. You have to set those boundaries, and those boundaries should include that time and that need to rest. So I think you touched on something really, really important there, Stephanie. Let's see.
And boundaries with yourself. Boundaries
Absolutely.
too as well. Yeah.
Yes. And so Candace, you said, I find myself sometimes trying to juggle working full time, having a business, and being a wife can sometimes be trying. Sometimes I feel guilty telling my spouse I'm tired and need to reset. Don't feel guilty, girl. Do not feel guilty. It's needed. It's essential. I mean, I cannot stress it enough. You can't fill up your husband's cup or your family's cup until your cup is full, and rest is a part of filling up your cup. And so I know at times we feel like we're neglecting our significant other, or we're neglecting our children, or we're neglecting our family or our career because we're tired, we need rest. But it's essential, it's important, and that's what we need. And Dr. Redmond, you touched on something really important, like our future selves depend on what we're doing now. And so we must rest now in order for us to be effective in the future. So do not feel guilty at all, Candace. Take that time that you need and have those conversations with your significant other so that he or she understands that it is important. It's important for you to get that rest and for you to reset.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. And that also connects to what Dr. Q was saying around communication, being able to express. And that's just, radical in itself, like being able to give yourself permission to express what your needs are. And that goes across many different platforms, expressing needs, but especially in our rest. And I believe the NAP ministry mentions rest as a portal. And in this portal, liberation is waiting. So, which, like I said, y'all need to just go ahead and follow the NAP ministry.
Yeah, follow them.
Because I'm like, oh goodness, it's a constant reminder that this is something that's a part of the process. This is not, like we said, it's not something we do here and there, at the start of the finish line of the process. This is something we have to embed in our regular process as we get to liberation. And this like almost idea of like the brainwashing of, not being able to rest and how that's just normalized. And once we give ourselves permission, we start doing that work of unpacking all of those like ideas and that past history that has told us we can't, we're not supposed to, et cetera, and all the other things that we mentioned here.
And I think the other thing we touched on earlier is like this idea that we have to grind all the time. We don't, and I feel like we really are kind of programmed to think that if we're not working, we're not, thriving, and that is just not the case at all. I think this idea of radical rest needs to be normalized in our households because it's something that, like you said, it's really radical. That idea that we are having a conversation about rest and what it means for our liberation in itself is really really crazy, but it's necessary because it's not happening. And so this is really the time to, pause. I understand folks got to grind. We got to get it. I'm all for grind, all for working multiple jobs just to get the things that you need and that you want. However, that rest is so essential and so important for your livelihood. And then rest and proper nutrition, it's linked to so many morbidities and mortalities in our country. And so I think even from a health perspective, rest is essential so that we can show up and show out when we do have to go and grind. So you don't always have to grind. I just want to put that out there. Build in that time for you, build in that me time, build in that time for rest because it's really, really important.
Yeah, you don't have to hold all the things all the time. Mm-hmm. And that's the important thing. I know, as some of our viewers have said, they're managing all these different things, and depending on someone's life circumstances, may not be able to okay, I'm just going to call off of work this day or that day or what have you. So we have to think about the idea of strategizing behind our rest. Mm-hmm. So the idea of taking time out to figure out how can I incorporate rest and wellness, self-care, leisure in my life is radical in itself, because there's no opportunity during the day where it's okay, unless you strategize behind it, where this hour is the hour that we're talking about ourselves, that we're centering ourselves. That's not a part of a daily schedule. I know it's not on my calendar, unless I am intentional behind what I put in there. And then, so I'm telling you, the NAP ministry, I want to give you, and I don't want y'all to think I came up with this. That's why I'm telling you, because these are not my, my words that came out of my mouth originally. So they say, we think rest is evil. Not hold on with me. In our lives, we think rest is evil, frivolous, and something we have to do, right? I'm sorry, I echo. But this idea, as we said before, we think it's this evil thing, frivolous, something you have to earn. You have to do all these things in order to get there, or it's taboo about rest. I don't want to, I don't want to lean into rest because it shows weakness, this evil sign or what have you. So they state that they don't want us rested because in a rested and open state, we will wake up. And I love that. It gives me goosebumps. It's so powerful. It speaks to all the pieces, how we think rest is so taboo, so rooted in just anti, oh, there's rest over there. We can't rest. We got to do all these different things. It's frivolous. It's something that you have to earn. I ain't finished with school yet, so I can't rest yet. I ain't got to X amount of commas in my bank account. I can't rest yet. I'm not a super pop star. I don't know. So I can't rest yet or what have you. And it's not something you have to earn. And they say they don't want us rested. Okay. They don't want us rested because in a rested and open state, we will wake up. And that's the thing. If we were able to take, I'm getting goosebumps. We were able to take the time and the needed energy to just rest, to take care of ourselves, right? Because we have not historically as a people been able to take care of ourselves. There's folks with all different, levels of income, and we still ain't able collectively to take care of ourselves, okay? I don't care how much money you have or what have you. We as a people have not been able to center ourselves and take care of ourselves. And they, meaning, our just society, and we already know all of that entails because we've been speaking about it, don't want us to rest because they don't want us awake as a people. Ooh,
I always tell people or my patients, I tell them to do small things, little small things at a time. So maybe when you first wake up, meditate, do your stretching. Maybe after work, go get some ice cream, go to your favorite wherever. So you don't have to start off big. Do something realistic that could, gradually get you to where you need to be, because all those small things add up to a great rest. So I try to fit small self-care into my daily schedule. And then I give myself, 2 days out of the month that I just like take off to mentally rest. But some of the people who have single parent households, remote learning, children, whomever, like you have parents you have to care for, multiple businesses, or you just doing whatever, start off small and make realistic rest goals. I'm really big on goal setting. Make them realistic, then you'll be able to accomplish it. Don't overshoot yourself and then you become hard on yourself. So start small. Write a list of some things that you miss doing, that you love doing, or some things that stress you out, and try to like problem solve of how to help decrease those stressors to your life. So I'm really big on that.
That's great. Great suggestions, Dr. Q. And I'm just letting that comment from the nap ministry really marinate.
Yeah.
It takes rest for us to be woke. Like that is just like, I know personally, when I am well rested, when I have that full reset, the India that shows up is a totally different woman. Like I can change the world when my body is reset, when my mind is fueled, when, all the distractions, like you said, shut off social media, shut off the TV. I mean, even the local news is a lot going on in everyone's community. And so, just shutting all that off and taking that time, that is when I show up as my best self. And so I really think we all take time to embrace this radical rest. Our nation wouldn't know what to do with our community, with other communities of color, because we gonna really change something, and I think it takes that time to really decompress and just reset. I think people never take that time out to just press pause. You're not pressing stop, you're pressing pause. And one thing I know is that the work will still get done whether you take a day off from work or not. The work will still get done. It'll be there when you get back, so never feel guilty about taking that time and doing that pause, because it's so essential. And so I mean, I'm probably going to write that nap ministry quote down, because it's really important, like really, really important. I think really resting, and not feeling guilty about it. Because what's the point of resting and then waking up and feeling bad because you was rested? And it's like, or taking a bubble bath and feeling like, oh, you were in there for too long. No, take that time out for you. And I like your idea of like setting small goals. You will be able to accomplish them. I think when we set these really lofty goals, like, oh, I'm going to take 2 days off every single week. No, you're not. But, like you said, just going for a walk every day for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, like those steps. And that too is rest. I don't think people understand. You don't have to be asleep to be resting. It's just taking that intentional time out for you to replenish yourself, replenish your soul, and really just reset yourself so that you can show up as the best you possible.
Yeah. And one of the things that you mentioned, and we've mentioned a few times, is unplugging from social media. What I think about is there has been like a recent amplifying of like just all of the events associated with like our anti-Black racism, and there's always a video clip, there's always a post of something, and it's the reality of our lives. And I try to, they're not good at things like that because it's too traumatizing for me personally. But, if there is a GoFundMe, if there is, an action, an ask, someone with, whatever little platform I have, I try to like do all the things. And some days I'm like, I need to just step back. Like, not that I'm not standing with you or anything. I just have to today. I need to like not post anything and not, I'm always understand that every process of our day is a piece to getting closer to liberation. And this process today entails me not doing anything. And that's just what it is. And at first I felt really guilty about that. I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, I, have access to this many people on my social media. If I don't share this thing right now, what if these people don't, get the attention they need on this issue, or, elevating this or what have you. And also I'm like, I'm part of community. I need this for myself right now. And when I'm rested, I will show back up and I'll be
I'll be there
to join you again. So just having those check-in points with yourself is so important, because we can't hold it all. Like, I'm not even talking about like the work. I'm talking about even just the things, all of the things of our lives, all the stories, all the actions, all that. We just can't hold it all the time. And it is so okay to just take a few steps back and just take care of yourself and then move forward, in that way. So we have a few more comments. No, we don't. Someone said, "Okay, Khaled." Okay. I think what I was saying, like, they don't want to see us. Well, yeah. Okay. But, so I think we can kind of get into sharing some thoughts around some ideas or takeaways from this conversation with rest. I will say that rest is vital in itself to build power, and that power that we need to resist systems of capitalism and white supremacy and oppression. So think about rest as a powerful energy. Like, it's just this way in which we hold and build power, and a strategy behind how we dismantle systems of oppression, how we challenge capitalism and white supremacy. So using rest truly as a strategy for our liberation and how we can do that. So with that being said, let's talk about some takeaways. Again, we are not like subject matter experts on rest. Like, we are trying to figure this shit out too.
Yes.
We just are opening a platform for us to have some intentional conversation behind it and have some shared strategy. So if you have some thoughts around it, please do add it here in the comment section. And I think we have someone that just added something. Dr. Q, you want to read that one?
Yeah, sure. So my natural pace is rest or ease. It takes a lot to get to be rattled, but sometimes it can be looked at as nonchalantness. How can I be looked at as caring even when I'm unworried?
Ooh.
Yeah. Do y'all have any suggestions?
That's a good question. Because sometimes I'm perceived as nonchalant, and I do care. But I think the way that our body language, the way that we approach the situation, I think what you need to do in this particular situation is just let the person know that you're not worried, but you understand that they are. So going back to communication. Because I think it's really important to never allow someone else's emotions to get you all riled up. If they're all like, oh, and then you come in, it's like they can ruin your whole day when your day was perfect before they came in. And so I think just say to them, like, I understand that you're worried. And in the back of your mind, you're like, I don't know why you worry, but give them that in that moment because they need it. But then also, tell yourself, don't take that home with you. Don't take that into the office with you.
Mm-hmm.
Leave that situation there. And don't always worry. My mom's really big about be yourself. If someone doesn't like you, that's on them.
That's on them.
Show up. So if someone thinks you're nonchalant, that's their perception of you. You know who you are, and you know that you have a caring heart, even if the person's not perceiving that. So keep doing you, and just definitely communicate and let them know, like, you are there to support them, even if it doesn't seem like you're worried at the time. Like, I think it also depends on who the situation is with. If it's with a significant other, definitely make sure you show up and show out every single time. But sometimes you got to kind of pick and choose, like. Sometimes you're really not worried, like, I'll let that person deal with it. And I think when we always show up, we don't help other people build their capacity. We become enablers if we're always showing up. And so just kind of pick and choose and figure out your plan of action. But that was a really good question, because I sometimes feel like, oh, you don't care. I do care. It's just I'm not going to wear it on my face.
Right. That's a good trait to have. But to answer this person's question, listen, my husband, whatever. I can read his body language. So when he is thinking about something, sometimes he can't hide it. So I'll go up to him. I'm like, can you please, let's talk about it? Because I'm more vocal, or I can't hide myself. So I'm like, you can obviously tell. So for him, the body language, or I'm like, oh God, something's off, because he's really, so you got to learn love language. You got to learn people, whether you're a significant other, your friend, whoever. If you're around them more, you'll get to know them. So I can read him sometimes. Sometimes he seems like he's nonchalant, but sometimes I can read him. So
yes. And then we have Vanessa who says, ladies, take control of your day. You control your inner clock. Ooh, I like that, the inner clock. Forget everything and everyone at the time of the day, that your mind and body signals to shut down. So when your mind and body says you need to shut down, then control.
That's true.
Yeah, I like
absolutely. That. And Vanessa's my mama, so
that's very true.
You know,
that's me at night.
She told me is that my mom always said Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yep.
So that really sticks with me. Like, you can't fix everything in one day. And, you know, if you need time to pause, what you were working on will be there when you get back. And so I feel everything's a race. You know, that's why I really like Nipsey with the marathon. Like, it's not a sprint. You know, it's not a sprint. Like, everything will happen in due time. And I got this Nipsey blue. Oh my goodness. Like, you know, the marathon does continue. And so, you know, I like that idea of we controlling our inner clock. I think us not taking rest also controls our outer clock and can really lead us to experience different type of, you know, hypertension and, you know, start eating badly. Like, if we don't take that time for radical rest, I feel like in the long term, we're doing ourselves a disservice.
And like rest is associated with, like, when I say liberation, also our joy. Like, I know we're navigating all of the things right now. And when it's okay. It's almost like some folks have told me, like, they feel guilty in putting up something like that they're doing that's positive or exciting or anything like that. Or if they, you know, if they're outside playing with the water hose and everybody's laughing or something like that. I don't know. But because I was going to say travel, but, you know, we don't know where because
travel.
Yeah. So, you know, we're having, you know, don't want to like boast about those things, but that's completely acceptable. Like, we have to accept the fact that we are allowed to experience joy. We are allowed to experience rest, even in the midst of two global pandemics, like even in the midst of the amplifying of anti-Black racism, and in the midst of COVID-19 and probably all the other stuff we're already navigating. It is okay to experience and to show joy. And it is okay to have that piece of joy connected to your rest. If it is, you know, sitting out at a pool all day with your drink of choice and whatever else you enjoy. Okay. Like, even if it is that is so amazing that you are able to carve out that time to do that for yourself. Okay. So even, I don't know, even in looking at rest as a piece of our joy in getting to liberation. Again, like we said this at the beginning, when we finally get to a place of liberation and freedom, we want to be around healthy, well, just to enjoy it. We want to be well, we can just be out there and just be free, etc. What point of it all if we can't enjoy it, if we're not here to see it, if we are just tired and drained? You know, we have to be our full selves in order to enjoy it. So let's get into some takeaways. We have a few short minutes. Someone says, sorry, those are some definitions.
She was given the definitions: exertion or labor to refresh oneself, as by sleeping, lying down, or relaxing. Verb, to relieve weariness by cessation or of exertion or labor.
Yes, now dictionary.
Yes.
You know what? I'm for it.
Yes. I like that idea, to refresh oneself. I mean, that to me, that's the ultimate definition of rest. And that refreshness can come in so many different forms, whether my refreshness of choice is taking a bubble bath every single day. Some people don't have time to take bubble bath. Some people don't like bubble baths, but that's my thing, taking a bubble bath. And so I think that's the ultimate definition of rest is refreshing yourself, and whatever that looks like, whether it's going on a date with your significant other, spending time with your family, sitting by the pool, traveling, whatever it is, playing with your children, like whatever you need to refresh yourself is what you should do.
And stop judging people's rest, because for real, some people are doing the best that they know right now. I'm just gonna be honest. I know a lot of people, you know, some people, you know, we all have our judgments, but if someone's enjoying themselves, just let them have it. You could give your pointers, but like, let's just try to be as gentle as we can during these times right now, because these are hard times right now. So just be respectful of everyone's rest.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. So we have a few takeaways. We already touched on giving ourselves permission, and reminding ourselves that it's okay to rest. Like it's okay, but at minimum, it's okay to rest. Let's see. We have try to plan it and put it into your calendar. I know we said that here tonight, like scheduling sometimes. You said even in small steps, little by little, so we don't look at it as this big thing we have to do right here, right now. Some of our viewers said checking in with yourself, and when your body, as Vanessa said, when your body is telling you, your mind and body is telling you,
shut down.
Yes. Shut down. So that was a great point. Do y'all have a few takeaways?
Someone said unapologetically be yourself. Take time for your rest. Do not explain yourself to anyone. I love that at the beginning. You do not have to explain. Let me just personal. So I have my own clinic. So my patients, I tell them, some of them I say, okay, Thursday and Friday I have off. It's just a personal day. Some of them, like a couple of them that's clingy. Oh, you're taking off? Yes, I work for myself. I need a mental health day. That's what I told them. They don't need to know where I'm going. They don't need to know what I geared you for, what you need to do. And I need this time for myself, for me to come back and give you 100%, because I don't work under 100%. This is my brand. So these are my 2 days. So I put my foot down. If you don't feel like that's good enough, you can't see me for 2 days, and I helped you get all the way to here, then I'm not the provider for you. So that should be with anything in your life. For my children, for these 2 days, you're going to have a babysitter. You're going to go to your grandmother's, or you're going to go spend a little more time with dad, and we're going to do vice versa, because I need this time so I can help be with you, so I won't retaliate, scream, pop, whatever. My parent, whatever. So I just feel like you have to put your foot down, because honestly, it's a breaking point for anybody at any time. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care what house you live in. I don't care who you come home to, whether yourself or to whoever. People have their breaking points. So that's why I say start off little, because I wasn't starting off little and I was just like all over the place. But then I said, no, I got to do this before I break. And I don't want to break. So that's why I say, y'all, just start off little. And if you're already starting off little, start off a little bit larger next month, because you deserve it.
I love that. And be gentle with yourself. You know, I think we are so hard on ourselves all the time. Give yourself permission and be gentle. And like Dr. Redmond said, like really bask in the joy that comes with radical rest.
Yeah. And no, and you touched on this, Dr. Q. When you're not rested, when you are exhausted, you are not at your best. You are not you're not the best caregiver. You're not you're not at 100% yourself. And being able to set those boundaries, because ultimately, as Dr. Rosa said, if your cup isn't full, how are you going to be able to pour into other people, right? Understanding those concepts there. I also want to say that Black people, again, as I said, we are tired, and you don't have to justify why you are tired. You don't have to think about your day. Well, I didn't really do this today. Why am I so tired? No, we are tired, and giving yourself permission to rest is important, and not feeling guilty about it is important too as well. Some other takeaways that we'll just pinpoint here, and then we'll wrap up our conversation for today, is that there's also rest and healing in community too as well. Our restoration, our liberation, or even like the ways in which we reach like transformative justice and all these different elements of healing can also be individual and communal. So like looking at rest as a communal opportunity to engage in community too as well. There's like some really amazing like altar build, actions where on the ground grassroots organizations and grassroots organizers create a space at like local community areas like parks and such to come and like just heal and, relax and rest and build an altar for your like ancestors and all, it's just these different things. And that's a piece of our rest too as well. Being in community too as well is something very important. And you don't have to know every single detail of how we're going to rest. You don't have to have your own strategic plan for how you're going to incorporate rest, but definitely do the intentional work in centering yourself in this concept of radical rest in your day-to-day lives. Yes. And I think we have a few more comments and then we'll
Thank you.
So we got some thank yous. Yes, never let anyone steal your thunder. And we're fierce. Oh, thanks.
Thank you, Miss Vanessa. You are too. I see pictures of you. I want to meet you one day.
So, oh my goodness. Any last words from our co-panelists or any of our viewers this evening?
Well, yeah, another viewer said, thank you, ladies. This has been amazing and needed. So thank you to the viewers for commenting and making this, a great conversation. And I wish you all well. And please reach out to any one of us if you want or need any tips or need to just communicate and talk to anybody. We're all open. Speaking for everybody, but yeah, we're all open. It takes a community, a village to get through things. So get your rest, girls and men and guys and whoever.
Definitely get your rest. Dr. Rose, any closing thoughts?
I just going back to that nap ministry. In order to be woke, you got to get rest. So that's like Dr. Q said, get your rest. Get your rest.
Absolutely. So we want to just be able to make sure we are doing the intentional work to get to our liberation, and we want to be well and healthy and well rested to see it and to enjoy it, and rest as a part of our freedom, rest as a part of our joy. That's something we have to just be intentional about. So thank you so much. Someone said, all right, Nip. Thank you so much for participating tonight and joining us on this conversation. If, as our co-panelist has discussed, if you want to get in contact with us, please do reach out. You can also join us at OurPanel TV on Instagram or subscribe to our YouTube channel. So until then, thank you so much.
Thank you. Good night. Bye-bye.
Good evening. Bye.